Well, this channel's starting a new no-fluff analysis series, and the first character of Genshin Impact to receive this review is Fischl, the Prinzessin der Verurteilung. Fischl's a 4-star electro bow and currently rate up on Venti's banner. Chances are, if you've spent even a moderate amount of pulls on the banner, you'll likely have a Fischl and a couple of Constellations to boot. Fischl's been commonly touted as an S-rank on a lot of tier lists floating around, so let's cut the fluff and get straight to it. Fischl's elemental skill is Night Rider, summoning Fischl's Raven, Oz, directly in front of her. The skill can be held to aim Oz's summon location, increasing the distance from which you can summon Oz. Oz deals 115% electro damage in a small AoE around him when summoned, and then continually fires attacks of 88.8% electro damage, generating electro energy particles with each hit for 10 seconds. Night Rider has a 25-second cooldown, and Fischl can reposition Oz to her location by recasting the skill during its duration. Fischl's elemental burst is Midnight Phantasmagoria, causing Fischl to take the form of Oz for a short duration. During this time, Fischl has greatly increased movement speed and deals 208% electro damage to enemies she comes into contact with. Each enemy can only be hit in this way once per burst. Once the burst ends, Oz will remain on the battlefield acting as a turret, much like Fischl's elemental skill. If Oz was already on the battlefield, Midnight Phantasmagoria will reset his duration. Midnight Phantasmagoria has a 15-second cooldown and requires 60 energy to use. Fischl's first passive, Stellar Predator, is unlocked at Ascension 1. When Fischl hits Oz with a fully charged aimed shot, Oz will deal AoE electro damage equal to 152.7% of the arrow's damage. Fischl's second passive, Lightning Smite, is unlocked at Ascension 4. If any character triggers an electro-related elemental reaction while Oz is on the field, Oz will deal an extra hit of electro damage equal to 80% of Fischl's attack. Fischl's domestic talent is Mein Hausgarten, reducing the time she spends on expeditions in Mondstadt by 25%. And finally, Constellations. Fischl's first constellation is Gaze of the Deep. When Oz is not on the field, he fires extra attacks when Fischl attacks, dealing 22% of Fischl's attack damage. Fischl's second constellation is Devourer of All Sins. Night Rider, Fischl's elemental skill, deals an extra 200% of attacker's damage, and its AoE is increased by 50%. Fischl's third constellation is Wings of Nightmare, which simply increases the level of Night Rider by 3 to a maximum of 15. Fischl's fourth constellation, Her Pilgrimage of Bleak, causes Midnight Phantasmagoria to deal an electro AoE of 222% upon use, and when it ends, Fischl is healed for 20% of her hit points, increasing her initial burst of damage from her elemental burst, as well as granting her some necessary sustain if she's being used as a main DPS. Fischl's fifth constellation, Against the Fleeing Light, is another simple 3-level increase to Midnight Phantasmagoria to a maximum of 15. Fischl's final constellation, Evernight Raven, increases Oz's summon duration by 2 seconds. When Oz is on the field, he will also attack with the current character, dealing 30% of Fischl's attack as electro damage. This increases Oz's overall uptime on the field to almost 50% from only using Fischl's elemental skill on cooldown, which will only increase when the duration is reset using Fischl's elemental burst. Wowee, so that's out of the way. What is it about Fischl's kit that makes her so damn powerful? Well, a lot of it boils down to the fact that she doesn't actually need to be on the field most of the time to contribute. With Night Rider, it's perfectly possible to switch to Fischl, drop her turret, and then swap back to a main DPS. Taking into account the character switch and cooldown, that's a little over 2 seconds invested, and then you have a bird on the field zapping everything nearby for the next 10 to 12 seconds, enabling electro-related reactions. This only gets more obscene as Fischl unlocks her Ascensions, with Oz firing off extra attacks for each reaction and his follow-ups to the on-field character's attacks. This is purely on the damage front too. Since Oz generates energy particles with each shot, he also charges the burst gauges of your entire team. More bursts equals more damage equals more energy, and more energy equals more bursts. Resetting Oz's duration with Midnight Phantasmagoria keeps the energy rolling in, as well as further reactions. Fischl's not purely relegated to being a support either. Switch up the artifacts and the weapon you're using, and Fischl can make for a decent main DPS as well, utilizing Oz's extra shots as well as his force multiplier to Fischl's charged shots when he's on the field. So how exactly should you be utilizing Fischl in your team compositions? Well, long answer short, it depends. Personally, I've put her alongside 2 Pyros to enable constant overloaded reactions, or as a backliner for Razor to charge his elemental burst faster, but team compositions for Spiral Abyss will often need to be custom fit to deal with the specific enemies of each floor. She makes a fine Electro enabler all by herself in teams featuring 2 of another element, but if you were to run a Razor or Keqing on your front line, she would make a fine energy generator for them as well. Not to mention builds that take her in a completely opposite direction too, utilising her as a frontline DPS to take advantage of Oz's extra attacks and force multiplication. I haven't done so myself, but it's definitely something I hear whispers of. What about you? Have you been blessed by Fischl? Or have you been unfortunate enough to have her evade all of your pulls? As always, thank you very much for watching until the end. Take it easy, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video.